Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. TPB semester 1 mahasiswa baru 2025-2026. Izin saya akan lanjutkan dalam bahasa Inggris. Good afternoon, students of Universitas Padjadjaran, first semester of all study program, bachelor and vocational study program of Universitas Padjadjaran. Today, for OKK modules, we are very fortunate to have a guest lecture from University of Applied Science, Osnabrück, Germany. Professor Dr. Peter Meyer. He is a professor of economics, and to have a guest lecture from University of Applied Science, Osnabrück, Germany. Professor Dr. Peter Meyer. He is a professor of economics. To read his CV, first of all, Professor Dr. Peter Meyer works at University of Applied Science or at Osnabrück, Germany. He's also having a lot of teaching experience. We can see from his CV. Professor of Economics and International Economics at University of Applied Science since 2001. Not even born yet, right? Yeah. And then visiting professor of Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. Guest professor at the University of Wisconsin, of course, and then also guest lectures, lots of university. Next, and then his professional experience related to higher education. He's the project manager for the AAD project. You should Google if you don't know right now. What is DAAD? Yeah. Next, and then project manager for DAD, DIES project for Indonesian universities as well. Head of study program International Business and Management, and lots of professional work experience. And also he's been living in several countries such as Ghana, South Korea, and the US as well. Yeah, for many years. So I would like to give long applause, for him.
So thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here. It's the third time for me to be here in Bandung. I actually hold the position of an adjunct professor here at your university. So to be here and to talk to you, first semester students, about sustainability, sustainable development goals is a great opportunity for me as well. So I'm happy, and please, if you have questions. I know, when I was a student, we had a big classroom with 600 students. And every day I thought, today I'm asking a question. And then I said, okay, maybe tomorrow. But please feel free. Okay, Sustainable Development Goals. This has been a great success in terms of, can you switch to the next one still? It doesn't work. So please switch for me. So the next slide, please. Next one. Okay. So the world community. We have 193 members of the United Nations. That is the big organization representing the world. Actually, all countries around the world do belong to the United Nations. It was set up in 1945 to organize our process towards peace and stability. And the United Nations, they agreed on these goals, which should give direction for development in your part of the world, in my part of the world, all over the world. So the Sustainable Development Goals are actually representing the idea of what should we pay attention to. Okay, next slide. So it started, you know, I worked in development assistance. I worked in development assistance in the 80s. And some people, they argued we should go for growth. Others argued we should go for the basic needs. Others argued we should go for employment. And here came a big international conference in Rio de Janeiro, in which country? Brazil, yes, correct. In Rio, there was this big conference where there was agreement on we should have development goals for countries in Asia, in Africa, and Latin America. So that conference in Rio 1992 was the starting point of that discussion on what do we want to achieve in development assistance, in developing countries in what we nowadays say global south. We don't want to say anymore developing countries or even less underdeveloped countries, so the countries in the global south. And then a few years later, there was a next step to say, please, we should go for, and now the goals, they were put into a new framework, and we called it Millennium Development Goals. And the Millennium Development Goals, they described some of the aims concerning the global south. So we would like to reduce poverty, and we would like to have health systems which allow people really to make sure they can have a decent life. So that was the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs. And then came the big step, which leads us now to what we have now. That is, next slide, please. That leads to what we have now. Now, 193 countries around the world, they agreed on the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals, and now I want to read, because each adjective, each word actually matters in this respect. The 17 SDGs represent a comprehensive. Please, when I guide you now through the 17 SDGs, have that in mind, it's comprehensive. It's not just looking at hunger, it's not just looking at health, it's comprehensive. So comprehensive, it is a vision. It is meant to guide us into the future. A vision, it's a long-term perspective. Comprehensive vision for sustainable development, for sustainable, we would come back to that, integrating now social issues, economic issues, and environmental issues. You know, I published an article about sustainability. You were not born at that time, but at that time, sustainability had a different meaning. It had a meaning of long term. And then later on, it had a meaning of, in many years, it's still like that, it has a meaning of, okay, environmentally safe, environmentally okay. But here, it's comprehensive. It is integrating social, economic, and environmental issues. And I will show you the 17 goals, and they are representing, first of all, the themes. They represent what we want to achieve, and we have even indicators. You will see during your studies in the various disciplines, you will see how important it is to have indicators to measure, do we actually make progress? Are we actually moving into the right direction? So the SDGs, 17 SDGs. Next one. And they came up with that one. You have seen it. Have you seen it? Did you discuss that at school already? Yes. Okay. Fine. So the SDGs. And you know, sometimes when they come up with colorful things and so, I'm skeptical, I'm an academic, so, but this one was a creative idea. They came up with this eye-catching way of presenting what we want to achieve. SDGs, 17 SDGs, and here are the 17. And last week I was in Kuala Lumpur. I met a person who is committed, and she had a brush with these 17 colors. So that was a big success. So sometimes, for your life as well, sometimes it's good to have really a clear logical structure, but to get it across to others in a nice way, where people say, wow, makes a lot of difference. Okay, next slide. So the first SDG is no poverty. So no poverty, what does it mean? How do you measure? Say it again.
Someone or a group of people have lack economical skills or economical financial
Abilities or yes.
Abilities. They lack financial abilities.
Yes, very good. Thank you very much. Very nice contribution. Yes. So no poverty. It sounds as if it's clear, but it's not. I met someone who in Germany who says he is poor. He can go shopping, he lives somewhere, but he says, I'm poor. So who defines poverty? Who defines? So what we agreed on is to say for the countries in the global south, we take the concept of absolute poverty. Absolute poverty. What is absolute poverty? Still unclear. So sometimes when you live in a village, you don't need much money. But when you live in a city, without money, you are lost. So anyhow, so the world community is saying, if someone has less than $3 per day, $3, it was 2.15 before, but now it's 3. If someone has less than $3 per day, then that person is absolutely poor. But in Germany, I come from Germany, in Germany, we are saying if you have less than 60% of the average, imagine the average here is some figure, and if someone has less than 60%, then we in Germany are saying that person is poor. But it's not that this is right, this is wrong. It is showing that it's difficult to say what is actually poverty. What is poverty? But what is clear is a world where so many people, almost 1 billion of people, are poor according to such standards is not a world which we should accept. So SDG goal number 1 is no poverty. Related to the no poverty of having enough money to buy the food, to buy accommodation, to buy other issues, we want to have some kind of social security. Meaning, when you are sick, when she is sick, when someone is sick, when someone is old, there needs to be a minimum social security. So the first SDG, number 1, no poverty, refers to we should have a very low, ideally a 0% of people who are really poor in these absolute terms, and we should have a solid social security safety net. Okay? Now, number 2, SDG number 2. The SDG number 2 means we want to end hunger. We want to achieve food security. Even if I'm well fed today, if tomorrow I fear that I don't have enough food, that was for hundreds of years, that was the reality in so many countries. In my country, some people are saying the Germans, the Europeans, they are so planning-oriented. The Europeans are planning-oriented because there was always food insecurity in the wintertime. If you hadn't put aside enough food for the winter, because in the winter nothing is growing, if you didn't put anything aside, you would starve. So food insecurity is terrible. So end hunger, achieve food security, and have improved nutrition. And promote sustainable agriculture. We have so many people who are suffering of hunger. And I actually visit sometimes African countries, and it's sad to see that young people are going hungry. They can afford only one meal or two meals. They eat something very small. And the question is, how can we deal with this? So the SDG is saying, please, the world needs to pay attention to end of hunger and pay attention to the food insecurity and have improved nutrition. Your government, actually I was yesterday at the Dies Natalis, your university is 68 years old, and I was at that day, and your vice minister was talking about stunting. Yes, and it's a big thing. It's so terrible. If you see that someone at a low age of 1 or 2 years or 3 or 4, when the body is developing, when that person does not have proper food and the brain is not developing, I mean, you damage that person for forever. So stunting is really a problem. So SDG number 2, we should address that issue. Okay, number 3. Ensure healthy lives. I mean, okay, we don't want to go hungry, but a healthy life is still something different. A healthy life is that you can sleep 6, 7, 8 hours, that you can enjoy time with your family. A healthy life is that, okay, you need to have proper nutrition. A healthy life is that when you are sick, you find someone to take care of you. So access to the healthcare system is really important. In some countries, I don't know about Indonesia, how is that when you live in the rural areas? How long do you have to go to find a doctor? Sometimes it's complicated. I mean, nowadays, even in Germany, they sometimes complain that the number of doctors is not high enough, and so you have to wait long hours. The question is, where would you have the doctors concentrated, in a big city or in the small cities? So the availability of medical service is very important. So SDG number 3 is saying we need to make sure that we have a healthy life, and that sometimes requires vaccination. Therefore, we are quite unhappy that in the United States there is at the moment talk so negatively about vaccination. Vaccination is really the way to protect, and it's so disappointing that the maternal mortality is still so high. Come on, how can we accept that? That mothers or mothers to be, they really face that risk of dying in the process of giving birth. So ensure healthy lives. We need nurses, we need doctors, we need hospitals, we need primary care, we need all sorts of systems. We should not allow, that was the message of the world community, we should not allow the world to accept that we have that we live with so many people who unnecessarily suffer or unnecessarily even die. Okay, next slide. Quality education. I have been, she told you, I lived in Ghana. Ghana is in West Africa. And Ghana is a developing country, I would say. It's a nice country. I really enjoy it. But some kids, they can't go to school because they have to help their parents. Some kids, they don't go to school because they don't have the money for the textbooks. Some kids, they don't go to school because the school is too far away. I know people who told me they walked every day 2 hours to the school and 2 hours back. I don't know, most probably you have that in Indonesia as well, or? So you need quality education. The future is educated people. If we are uneducated, we don't know what is good for us. I was sharing that idea about some food. I mean, how do I know that some food is not good for me? Because I'm educated, and you are educated. You made it to Unpad, and so you are educated. So we need to have quality education at the primary school, at the secondary school, and now in tertiary education. In South Korea, that was fantastic. South Korea, you know, in 1960, South Korea and Ghana were at the same level. Same level. In lots of books, they always compare South Korea and Ghana, and accidentally it happened that I lived in both countries. And Ghana is a typical country, still underdeveloped, so to speak, and South Korea is an industrialized country. So how did they make it? And they made it by having, at the beginning, they focused on primary education. Then they had established this first phase. Then came the secondary education, and now the majority of Koreans go to tertiary education. The majority. It's actually a bit too much, I think. So we need quality education. Even in Germany, we have sometimes people who can't read. What do you do if you can't read? They cover. They were describing how people cover it up. They would always, I didn't bring my glasses along, and so they would all find all sorts of excuses. So others don't realize. But if you can't read, okay, you can do the maybe construction work. But even that, in the future, you won't be able, because you need machines. You need to, in my country, in Europe, even the construction workers, they need to use computers to program their gadgets. So quality education is really important. And we have to find ways to finance the schools, to have good teachers, to have textbooks, to have facilities. You know, I was once, okay, I guide you through the world. I was once in South Africa. And then I went to the top school in Johannesburg. Very nice. Swimming pool, library, a theater like here. And then I went to one of the remote places, and it was a hut. Only the floor with sand. The kids were sitting on the floor. There was no table, no chair, no nothing. It's so sad. It's so sad. How can these people have a chance in life as compared to the others? So, ensure inclusive. What is inclusive? What is inclusive? What is inclusive?
For me, inclusive is like all the people have the same access to get or to achieve the things. That's it.
Yes, that's a good point. Inclusive means we include even those who are regularly maybe not part of it. I tell you a story. I had, over all my years as a professor, I had one student who once came to me and said he has a hearing problem. And then he gave me a microphone. I put it like a necklace around my neck. And he had the earphones, and so he could listen to everything. But tell me, why was that only once in my life? Why is that only once in my life? I tell you, because we are not inclusive in this respect. The people who have a hearing problem, they are making it somehow, maybe in the first primary school or in the secondary school, all of a sudden they are not as good as, and so on, and they don't make it to the university. This is not good, because we should not leave children behind. That was actually the slogan in the United States, no child left behind. And this is inclusive. Inclusive in terms of hearing impairment, maybe people can't see, maybe people need a wheelchair, whatever. So inclusive. Okay, next one. SDG number 5, achieve gender equality. In some countries, gender inequality is a big thing. In Africa, even in China, I mean, look at the abortion of girls in the past. It seems it has changed a little bit, but what kind of policy is that? That people go against that. Gender inequality, or sexual harassment. Women are pushed aside. Women are just pushed into the household to cook, to take care of the children. We in Germany, we are so frustrated. We sent troops to Afghanistan to help Afghanistan to become a normal country. And then we had to leave in an emergency action, and now we see that the girls are not allowed to go to school. Come on. This is just unacceptable. So we have to achieve gender equality and empower women and girls. So you, the women here, be powerful, be strong, rely on your intellectual and other power. Okay, next slide, please. So ensure availability and sustainable management of water. There is nothing as important as water. If you don't have water, drinking water, then you die. So, and water is scarce. But what is the way to provide water? When you live in the rural areas, maybe there is a well. Maybe the well is far away. But then maybe someone wants to build a pipe system to bring the water to you. But then what do we do concerning the price? Because a pipe system is expensive. Who should provide it? The government or the the private sector? Should there be a price for water? But whatever it is, we need water. We need water for brushing our teeth, for drinking, for doing the typical hygiene, personal hygiene. So water is really something we have to work on. People have access to water. Okay? Energy. What do we do without energy? What would we do now without energy? At home. I mean, now we have all our smartphones. We need energy. We need energy at home. We need energy for cooking. We need energy for transport. We need energy for industry. So energy is really something absolutely essential. And at the same time, what kind of energy? Do we go for nuclear energy? You know, Germany, we abolished. In Germany, we decided we don't want to have nuclear energy because the risk is too high. Controversial, but we decided so. But then we still have coal. But coal, please, what's negative about coal?
Pollution?
Yes, the pollution, and because of the pollution, the climate change, the warming up, the heating up of the planet. So what kind of reliable and affordable energy source could we have? Okay, number 8. Promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth. If your country, I understand your growth rate is about 5% or so, I think. But if your government's ambition is higher, according to the UN, it would be nice to have higher growth. 5% is already something. But certainly, if you want to catch up relatively, this is a mathematical logic, if you want to catch up relatively, your growth rate needs to be higher than in the industrialized countries. It is at the moment. So in Europe, the growth rate is low, and Japan is low, and United States at the moment is medium. So your growth rate is higher, and therefore your relative share of GDP, of the world GDP, is actually increasing. But we need economic growth, and we need employment. So only when we ensure that people actually have jobs, they can participate in the society. So this is SDG number 8, now 9. Build resilient infrastructure. Your former President Jokowi made it a signature policy to build infrastructure. And that makes a lot of sense, because if you don't have infrastructure, if you don't have roads, if you don't have electricity, if you don't have water, like we said, but let's focus on the roads or the harbors. If you don't have that, there won't be many jobs. In our case, it is as well like that. If the way from to an industry place of a company, if that way is long, then actually industry would say, no, this is extra cost, we want to avoid that. So build resilient infrastructure and foster innovation. Yesterday at the Dies Natalis, I saw your rector presented in which sector in your or discipline in your university, mathematics also, for example, or the business faculty, but other faculties as well, in which way they actually contributed to innovation. We need to innovate. Sometimes, I mean, the innovation, look at China, look at the US. I mean, some countries are really, or I think we as well, some countries are really fast. China has become so fast. And AI, look at AI, the development. We are all actually quite fascinated by the speed. But we can't accept that countries in Asia also are just lagging behind or just watching what's happening. So SDG number 9, we need to foster innovation. Okay, SDG 10. Inequality. In all countries, inequality is part of a market economy, of a capitalist system. Actually, I defend some level of inequality. But if the inequality goes beyond a certain point, then it's problematic. Inequality where like in, well, let's say in Latin America is famous for very high inequality, but the United States, as compared to other industrialized countries, has as well quite some high inequality. I mean, people have their own airport. Come on. It's incredible. So, but whatever it is, when we talk about the countries here in Asia or in Africa, the inequality shouldn't be such that many poor people have never a chance to participate in the development. So reduce inequality within and among countries. So among countries means you grow faster than we grow in Europe. That means your per capita income will get closer to our per capita income. This is reducing inequality. That's good. And within the country, that means your rich people, maybe they have to pay higher taxes or other ways, but reducing inequality, okay? SDG number 11. Do you know how many people, what's the percentage of people living in big cities, in cities? Guess? 20%, 30%, 40%, what do you think? People living in cities as compared to people in rural areas, what do you think? Percentage? Yes, so you don't have the exact percentage. They say in the long run we will have 70% of people living in cities. 70. But some cities I tell you from experience, some cities are unbearable. The traffic is a hell. You're always in traffic jam. Maybe you have been to Jakarta. Oh, Jakarta is too bad. Jakarta is too bad. But I lived in South Korea, in Seoul. At that time, it was worse. No, it was equally bad. Equally bad. South Korea in 1997 to 2001, I would spend every day 2-3 hours in traffic. Okay, I had a driver so I could read, but it was terrible. But they managed. South Korea, they developed subways, metros, they even reduced the number of roads, and now the traffic is flowing. So we have to make, if 70% of the population is living in cities, we have to make sure that the cities are actually nice places to live. There is a park in the city. There is a way to keep the noise away from us. Noise pollution. Noise pollution. It's a big thing. We talk about noise pollution. Sometimes the motorbike drivers, they pollute. They pollute with noise the environment. So we have to make cities actually places we want to be. And we need to have cities to be resilient. What is resilience? What is resilience? What? Say it again. Who was that?
Resilience is like, so in my opinion, like resilience is like when faced with like a long-term living, it's going to stay and not going to like crumble. Yes. Thank you.
The not. Some applause for this young boy. Yes. So not crumble. This is a nice way of putting it. Resilience means if there is a storm, you don't fall. And resilience, we talk a lot in Germany, in Europe, about your resilience. And please, I wish for all of you, you develop, please, your resilience. Be strong. Even if you fail in a class, even if you don't find a friend in the first weeks, even if there's a problem in your family, even if, and so forth and the like, be resilient. So we talk about resilience of persons. But we talk as well about resilience of organizations. A company needs to be resilient. So if one of the customers is going bankrupt and the company would immediately follow, the company is not resilient. The company should not crumble. Nice word. And cities should not crumble if there is a lot of water falling, like it happened in Flores yesterday or the day before. All of a sudden there is a downpour, heavy downpour, and all of a sudden people drown. Also, I don't know whether it happened, but on German television they said so. So we have to make cities and human settlements inclusive. So open it up for the disabled. We should not put the disabled in the last room in our house. No one sees them. That was the reality earlier times. If someone was disabled, no one should see it. No, they should have a chance to participate. So we need inclusive cities, we need safe cities where you feel safe to walk around. And the girls. I have a daughter, I have a son. My daughter is saying once in a while at some places, well, she doesn't feel safe. That's not good. That's not good. So we need safe places, we need resilient places and sustainable. Okay, number 12. Ensure sustainable consumption. What is sustainable consumption? You're willing? Sustainable consumption means you don't consume unnecessarily. You make sure that, for example, when you buy a shirt, you don't throw it away 2 weeks later. Do we have that? We have that. In Europe, it's a big thing. Fast fashion. People like it. The fashion is changing. So if you really pay attention to the fashion, and the fashion is changing, so throw it away. So there is a British warehouse in Germany called Primark. They sell shirts for €2. So 30,000 rupias. So it's incredible. It's incredible. So we have to change our consumption habits. We should not have a smartphone every 2 years. Why not every 5 years? Your phone is how old? 2 years. So keep it for 2 more years. So sustainable consumption. Or the food. I mean, in Germany, in Europe, we have at the moment the realization that we throw away so much food. So nowadays there is pressure on the companies. Before they throw it away, they give it to the poor people. So we should not get used to a world where we just throw away. Sometimes when there is a washing machine or a television set, or actually the dishwasher, yes, my dishwasher was a small problem, but to ask for a repair would cost me €150. So then I better say, okay, let's take a new dishwasher. What a world! And then all this stuff which goes into the material, this is all waste. So we need to have sustainable consumption and production patterns. Okay, next one. Climate change. This is the area where the Germans, the Europeans are most concerned. Donald Trump is saying it's actually fake, but we think it's crazy. Climate change is happening. The climate is warming up. We have hotter temperatures around the world. We have the carbon emissions producing this greenhouse gas effect where the planet is warming up. And we have hotter temperatures in most places around the world. In some places, because of the water flow in the oceans, there are some changes in a different direction. But overall, we have climate change. And the question is, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean for you in the future when the temperature will be sometimes 40 degrees? Not in Bandung, fortunately, I like it here. So it's very nice. It's very nice. But at some places, 40 degrees. Oh, it's unbearable. So we have to, in this respect, there are two concepts: climate adaptation and climate, do you know? Climate mitigation. Climate mitigation means we have to put all our efforts into mitigating, stopping the climate change to happen. And then the other group is saying, yes, that's true, but we have to adapt. So we have to have new houses. For example, this classroom here, this classroom is the way it is. You need aircon. You need energy to have it cool. Even if it's outside, not hot. You need aircon. I lived in such a house in Ghana, and I regretted it a lot. And I had another room where they had such windows with such glass tiles where you could switch, and then the glass tiles would the wind flow into the room. So that was very nice. I don't know, do you have that in Indonesia? Do you get my point? So instead of having a glass like that, you have glass tiles, rectangles, and then you can switch, and then the rectangles would change from this way to that one. And then when you have it on both sides, yes, that's very nice. Very nice if you have it on that side, and it's not hot. Why not having it like that? And then you don't need energy. We don't need energy. So we have to mitigate, and at the same time we have to adapt. maybe we have to change the architecture, green architecture. Okay? Next one. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans. You are here. You are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, next to the Indian Ocean. I mean, the ocean, the quality of the water, the kind of fish you can get, you can fish. But, you know, 2 years ago I was in Borneo, northern part, Sandakan. Very nice place, very nice hotel, very nice hotel. It was right at the ocean. Oh, I liked it. Then I left. I wanted to go to the beach or to the shore. And what did I find? Lots of trash. Plastic bottles, trash. And people were sitting there as if there is nothing. It was actually smelling. But people were sitting there as if there is nothing. And later on, all these trash, they were saying it comes from the Philippines, but whatever it is, where it comes from, whatever it is, these plastic stuff is gathering in the Pacific Ocean. There are big islands with plastic. And this plastic, they nowadays say, finds its way into your body. How? Do you eat bottles? No, you don't. So it finds its way in your body by having the fish somehow eating small plastic, and you eat the fish, and this microplastic, that's the way we call it, the microplastic finds its way in your body. And they say maybe some of the illnesses, we haven't found really the reasons behind them, they are actually caused by such microplastic. So we have to find ways. But who is responsible for it? In Indonesia or in Malaysia, they were saying it's Philippines. And in the Philippines, they say it's actually, it's China. But this is actually an economic, for those of you who study economics and business, this is a global public good problem. So who should address that? Everyone is waiting for the others to do it. But the others, they wait as well, and at the end, there's nothing. So conserve the oceans and the marine resources for sustainable development. Next one. Protect our forests, protect our make sure that we are not ending up in desertification. But desertification is actually likely at some places when it's getting hotter, when we have less rain. So look at desertification and the land degradation. I mean, you have rainforests like Brazil, but unfortunately, when you take down the rainforest, the biodiversity quality is disappearing quickly because the fertile soil is actually just small. So we have to do that. Okay, number 6. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective. I like to come back to what I said before. You remember the definition of sustainable development? It's comprehensive. It's comprehensive. Why is it comprehensive? Because we are talking about hunger, we talk about a health system, we talk about employment, we talk about the growth, we talk about water, we talk about energy, and now we talk even about the justice system. Provide access to justice for all. So the Sustainable Development Goals, they transform, or they give us orientation towards this is a world we want to live in, should be characterized by such features. Okay, last one. Someone has to pay for that. Who should pay for that? Here is a nice snap. So who should pay for that? Who? The government? What did you say?
I just hate the government because I think the problems in the world are maybe not only caused by the people but for the government because they have done like they have their ambition to develop the countries or the world by their own will, and so that's why the people should follow it without consent, especially when the government is like totalitarian or like when they force their power to people right now, especially what happened in our country right now.
Yes. So the government is a natural player in this field. Yes. The government needs to do something. But it's not only the government. The private corporations. And who else? Who else? Say it again.
I was saying the investors should partner with the government as well. I think all the people that have the power, that have control, that have what do you call it, more privilege, should participate and partnership in this FTGS program.
Yes, very strong statement. Yes, very good. So thank you. Yes. So maybe we look at it when we think about the layers of government. The layers of government, we have the international community, the United Nations. Maybe you have a regional organization called ASEAN, and maybe ASEAN. Then you have Indonesia, the government. Then you have your provinces, 34? Yes, 34 regions or so. 38. So see, 38 regions. So the regional governments, maybe the cities, maybe even the below the city. So that is the government. These are all government. This is all government. International government level, intergovernmental cooperation. That's the UN or ASEAN. Then you have your national government. You have the federal government or the provincial, the regions, or you have the cities. So this is government. But in addition to government, they were saying we should have the industries. Who else? Who else? Yes, exactly. It's you. Yes. It's all of us. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Come on, this is our task. It's your task. It's my task. We have to make sure that sustainable development goals are achieved. Don't wait for the government only. So one of the issues is really to pull the society into it, to attract us to be part of that effort. That is number one. We all have to be part of it. But the second issue is who is actually responsible at the end of the day for this greenhouse gas carbon emission development? Who is responsible? Yes, okay, that's nice. Thank you very much. That's true. But some people are saying, with some justification, well, these people, like me, coming from Europe, from the United States, actually their industrialization started much earlier. Their deforestation started much earlier. Their way of destroying the environment started much earlier. So, and they are richer, they should pay. And yes, I accept. Most people in Germany accept. We have a responsibility. The German, the European, I think many Americans as well, Donald Trump less, but many people in the north accept we have a responsibility. And we are richer than the people in Ethiopia, in Sudan, in Somalia, in Nigeria, and as well richer as compared to Indonesia. So there is some question of who should actually pay for all this investment which is needed. But at the end of the day, and this is maybe bringing me to the end, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's us. It's us. And it's actually nice that you talk, or I have the opportunity to talk with you at the beginning of your studies about that, because these sustainable development goals, they show actually how big the challenge is, but how attractive it can be to get into the struggle for improvement. Maybe you study medicine, so get into the improvement of the healthcare system. Maybe you study economics, then you improve the economic policy. Or you are in dentistry and you work for better health. I feel the sustainable development goals, they actually rightly give us direction. They give us direction, and in your studies as well, and in the conversations as well. Last week I was with German students this week, the beginning of the week, I was in Kuala Lumpur. And the Malaysian students and the German students, they talked about what is your reality and our reality. For example, they talked about waste management. So how do you manage your waste in Germany, and how do you manage that in Malaysia? How do you deal with the plastic? How do you deal with the paper? How do you deal with the glass? How do you deal with the bio waste? In Germany, we are really particular about it. We collect everything. The glass we bring to containers. The papers, we have a special box. The bio waste, we have special boxes, cans. The regular waste. Then sometimes every 4 weeks I would go to a special place where they collect the old computers, where they collect the wooden material, and so forth and the like. But whatever it is, when you meet foreign students, when you meet foreigners, engage them, discuss. Because you are the future. You are the future, and you can interact with others in a very friendly manner. So maybe some of you will study abroad, maybe in Europe, maybe in the United States, maybe in China, maybe in the ASEAN countries. Well, maybe in ASEAN countries, it's surprising. It's surprising how different sometimes the conditions are. Is it Singapore? Sure, Singapore is different anyhow, but when you come to Thailand, or when you come to Cambodia, or when you come to India, so that's not ASEAN, but so the conditions are quite different. So I would like to encourage you to, during your studies, really use sometimes this reflection on the SDGs, and look at how can I contribute? Are we on the right way? It's our Earth. You know, in some countries, people are so frustrated. I would say in Europe, we have at the moment quite a number of young people your age who think that the last generation, my generation, has actually somehow allowed us to ruin the planet. They are really negative. So they are really skeptical. I feel it's overdone, but it requires our attention. And so here are the 17 SDGs agreed upon in 2015 with these nice colors, covering all sorts of economic, health, social, environmental issues, and which give us reflection on what do we want to achieve. I personally have been in Indonesia the first time in 1997, I think, was the first time. So from my perspective, Indonesia is on a very nice way. So despite all sorts of issues, we have them all around the world. So despite all sorts of issues, Indonesia is on the way. But I personally believe, truly I believe, we have to keep this in mind. We need to have all these requirements concerning water availability, health system, is it stunting or is it something, access to good schools. We have to keep it in mind to make this world a better place. So thank you very much, and now we have time for discussion, for reflection. Very nice, very strong. Very strong. So many people. I like that. Yes, good.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for the chance. Let me introduce myself. My name is Grace Angelova. You can call me Angel. I'm from the Faculty of Medicine. So, previously in my high school, I was joined a volunteer in an organization for children with disability, especially intellectual disability called Down syndrome. And in there, I realized one of the biggest problem is the lack of job opportunities for them after they graduate from high school. And this is some kind of hard problems to be resolved because it's very structural. And what do you think, because is it related to SDGs number 8, decent work and economic growth for all? By all means, it's inclusively like the tagline of SDGs No One Left Behind. What is the solution of this problem? Because as we know, government and corporation was like, they tend to not choose persons with disability because it needs a lot of accommodations and limitations. Thank you, Professor.
You know, I attended some time ago, I attended an evening with a theater performance of people with Down syndrome. And I tell you, I was almost in tears.
Yes.
Because I had not expected something like that. There are some people with Down syndrome who are really still able to really participate and actively interact. So I was really, it was a sensation for me personally. And 3 weeks ago, I met the producer of that theater performance, and I congratulated him. I said, this was really an eye-opening event. So my point is that many disabled people can have and want to have a meaningful contribution in life. And it can happen to you. You might have children one day who are disabled. You might have a brother, you might have an accident tomorrow. Or your sister, your brother might have an accident. Then you have a disability. There is no point of us looking down on the disabled, so we have to integrate them. My father was actually disabled. And in Germany, we have a system of a company needs to employ, if they have reached a certain level, they need to employ disabled people. If they don't, they need to pay some extra money. And with that extra money, they actually finance production sites where they can do some work. So yes, we have to have special institutions to deal with it. We have to, first of all, set our mind clear. Disabled are part of our society. And I like it as well. We forgot to say, you were active in an NGO, non-governmental organization. So when I was saying it's the governmental level, it's the industry, it's you, then I should have mentioned it as well, it's the civil society. Civil society. Some Germans, some people use that word wrong, in the wrong way. Civil society is not the opposite of the military society, but is the description of non-governmental organizations fighting for the improvement of life. So civil society is playing a role as well. So thank you very much. Please stay active in that field. I like it. So another person, can you come down? Come down. And then the second one, you as well. The lady in the, no, the lady. Yes, you. Yes, come.
Tes. Hello everyone, hello. Guten Tag, friends. My name is Maulana Arjadayu. I'm from Marine Science, my major. And I got 2 questions. First of all, how us students in Indonesia as a development country, to contribute to these humanitarian projects like SDG? Like we may be lacking in economical value, we lack in economics, but how would you suggest us to contribute in this as a student? And for my second question, how do we surpass cultural and tradition boundaries to promote equality and women's rights, like in Middle Eastern, where women's right is really surpassed by their own tradition that are already engraved in their life for years. And for equality, like in India, where caste system is still applicable in their own life. Okay, thank you. Duncan.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to make my point. I think we have a chance, you and I and my students in Germany, we have a chance on a permanent basis to make a contribution. On a permanent basis. Maybe we work for an NGO, like she said. Maybe we help someone, a migrant. My wife, for example, she is helping the son of a migrant family to read German. So she's going there in her free time and reading with him. So this is all helping to make sure that people can contribute. When there is someone who doesn't have a shelter and is hungry, maybe you can stop by. In Germany, we get used to just passing by the people who are unfortunate in life. So maybe we can do that. Maybe in terms of electricity, we can save electricity. We can save water. Water is free sometimes. And we see some people, some people, they just waste water. They say in Germany, when you brush your teeth, stop the water from flowing when you brush your teeth. So it's unnecessary waste of water. So we have to get that into our daily routine. The second question concerned, Sylvan, tradition. Yes, the tradition. I personally find it difficult to talk about your traditions. I was maybe bolder earlier times, but you have your traditions, and sometimes I don't like the tradition. Koreans, for example, they spit everywhere. So when I lived there, it sounded always so bad. You could hear how they, whatever. I don't want to describe that. So I didn't like that. But I couldn't say anything. Who am I? I come to Korea, I'm a guest. So for me to comment on your habits, on the habits in other countries, it's difficult. But the habits, they are playing a role. And some of the habits, they should change. So the lady, come. Super, thank you very much. Very nice question.
Good evening, Professor. My name is Fanya Vanesha, and I am from the Faculty of Communication. And my question is about, so I see that there are 17 SGDs, right? But then, and they all are equally important. But then I noticed that neither of them actually mention about media regulation. And then, because I was thinking, like, I don't know, for my whole life, I was thinking media social has become like one of the places where a bunch of problems can rise. For example, cyberbullying or manipulation of information, and even it can provoke people to, like, for example, commit, what do you call it, like, apa sih, anarkis, demo anarkis? Anarki demo gitu. And then apa sih? Ya gitu. So it heatens up the situation that it doesn't have to supposed to be. And I was just wondering why hasn't it been one of the SGDs, and do you think will it be like the 18th SGD or stuff like that? Thank you.
It's yes, thank you very much. It's a very creative input, yes. So we should lobby. Let's exchange emails. So we start a lobby campaign where media should be included as SDG number 18. Concerning the role of media and the role of your responsible use of media, this can't be overemphasized. a friend of mine, he had to take his son from one school to the other because on WhatsApp, when they were small, when they were 10 or so, they were insulting each other with such bad words. I don't know, do you have that in Indonesia and similar as well? Maybe you are more civilized. But this was really bad. And sometimes now, with all these AI tools to create images and so, the media is playing a key role. The media is playing as well a key role in educating us on the SDGs. And so I would agree. It would have been maybe a good idea to add the responsibility of the media. But the universities are not explicitly mentioned, but we accept as well. And so many of our media, traditional media houses, do accept that we have a role to play in educating people and in guiding us. So when we later on as a journalist or as a media practitioner, when we write, think twice what happens if we publish something. If someone can very much disappointed and the like. So I agree, the media has a big role, a big responsibility, and we shouldn't downplay that role. And I have a friend who participates in these SDG meetings in New York. I will tell her about the media and she will pick it up. So thank you.
Guten Tag, Herr Professor. I came from the Russian literature, and here I have a question. So the 17th point of the SDG said, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Sometimes I wonder, since we've been always like in seminar webinar like this talking about how to start the sustainable development, but I wonder what happened. How do we actually sustain the sustainable development? Since like a global partnership is one of the most important things of cooperation in making the sustainable development a real thing. It's a common goal for like 193 countries in the UN, and I began to think like we have this more differing opinion. Some countries decided to still use coal, like in Germany. Some decided to say climate change is a fake thing. Some decided that some still have conflicts, like the war in Ukraine right now. And I began to wonder, how do we actually achieve this world global cooperation with all the difference, especially between governments, because government is a key part amongst nations. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much for this nice question. This international cooperation happens. At the moment, your government is negotiating with the European Union, and part of the negotiation is about sustainability. The negotiations take place on the level of the industries. But as well the universities. I told you, this week actually, I was in Kuala Lumpur with Malaysian students and German students. And what did we do? We discussed, similar like now, we discussed sustainability in this country and that country. So we build bridges, we try to make sure we understand each other. So is it only the governments? No, it's not. The NGOs. You have all sorts of international NGOs or national NGOs. Is it your Muslim organizations or Muhammadiyah? I worked with Muhammadiyah Jakarta. They are having international collaboration. And then they have workshops on SDGs. And I participated in a workshop on ESG, the workshop, the conference here with Unpad. So the universities cooperate, the schools cooperate, the women organizations around the world cooperate, the trade unions cooperate. So many actually cooperate, and this is important. We need to. So I hope that some of you will make their way as students. I mean, Unpad has so many cooperation support. With us, for example, we welcome students from Unpad, but other places as well. So, and then there is this opportunity to collaborate and to exchange ideas. Okay, so thank you very much. We have 3 questions.
So we have 3 questions from students who are attending virtually. We will display it in the screen. Yes.
Does our education system between basic until higher education was priority having been created good? Means multi-talents or complicated vocation chances? So I have not been at schools, but I understand from you nodding at the beginning, you discuss SDGs at schools, but I guess most schools have now the ambition to really educate us, not educate, sensitize us towards the challenges of sustainability. It's our planet. If this planet is heating up, some of the places in Indonesia they will just be unattractive. Some of the islands in the oceanic region, in the Pacific Ocean, they will disappear. So we have already environmental migrants who leave their islands because it's uninhabitable. So I would say, but I can't really tell about your school system here in your country. But what is clear is we need to sensitize at the school level and at the university level. These are the challenges. I personally don't want to tell you this is what you have to do. I don't. I just want to say, let's all think. You are rational people. You are rational people, and please make up your mind. Read and learn and reflect and draw your decision. Some people come up with a decision to say, I never fly with an airplane again, because the carbon emissions are just too bad. And others, like me, are saying, I have a good reason, so I still fly. So people come with different conclusions. But what I would not personally accept is that my students in Osnabrück get out of the school and have never heard about sustainability and the challenges of climate change and the like. But what they conclude from that, I would like to leave with them. Okay, the second question.
Next question, please. Okay.
Amanda from OKK, what's that, OKK?
That's the name of our modules, OKK.
May I ask, in what ways can sustainable livestock management support SDGs, responsible consumption and production? Yes, that's a very nice point. Some people in Germany are saying we eat too much beef. So some people are saying we eat too much beef. So reduce the beef consumption, because the beef consumption is actually partly relevant, responsible for the heating up of the planet, because the cows, they produce methane gas. So responsible livestock management, some people are saying we produce and consume too much beef. My personal experience so far in Indonesia is you like beef. Really? Yes. So responsible livestock management could mean already for some, again, leave it to the people to decide. But for some it could be have less beef, less cattle, less livestock. Number two is In Germany, in Europe, it's a big thing how we actually keep our animals. Even if people decide to eat meat, I eat meat. It's not actually, it's not right to say, I don't care how the cow lives during the lifespan of the cow, or of a chicken, or of a lamb. So we have a responsibility. I think in the Islamic way of thinking, we have to slaughter the animals as well in a decent way. So there are ethical considerations which come in, which require us to say this is a world where we want to live decently and we want to live ethically. And someone was mentioning anarchy before, the lady. So we don't want to end in anarchy. So anarchy is not good for us. It's not good for it's the right of the strongest. Sometimes we feel that Donald Trump is sort of signaling that kind of policy. But this is not what we want in the world. We want to have ethical behavior, and so in that respect, we should deal with each other in an ethical manner and with the animals. And so how we interpret that in the reality is a different matter. That's difficult. How many square meters should a cow have, or the chicken? Should they run around freely, or should they be in a cage? So that's all a complicated stuff. But responsible livestock management, for those of you who study agriculture or veterinary medicine or so, that is a big issue. And this arcane in the context of a developing country like Indonesia, what are the main challenges in integrating the three pillars of sustainable development? Yes, that's a nice question as well. There are what we economists call trade-offs. Trade-offs. Trade-offs with two F. Trade-offs. The trade-off means sometimes because we want to move into, improvement of the economic affairs, maybe the environmental objectives are in danger. So maybe if we want to grow fast, China is saying so at the moment still, in the past maybe stronger. I don't want to criticize China so much like maybe in other countries, because overall I feel China has done many things right and has moved in the right direction and is a country with strong people. I like the program in China, I like my students in China, so I don't want to overdo it with the criticism. But for a while, the economic change, the increase of the GDP per person was so dominating that the environmental issues, they were secondary. So when I went the first time for teaching in Shanghai, the water coming out of the tap, it was brown, so terrible. Now it's clean, and so they have improved. But for a while, they had focused on the economic development and forgot about the environmental. But sustainable development, that is another definition Arkan has in mind. Sustainable development can be looked at from various perspectives. What I introduced to you was the SDGs. And the SDGs define actually sustainability in a very unique way, very broad, very comprehensive. This approach is saying, okay, when we want to go for sustainability, a company needs to look at the economic sustainability, the social sustainability, and the environmental one, or the society. So we have to see the trade-offs, and sometimes we have to accept that maybe countries first need to develop. I can't expect from a poor person in your country or in the Philippines or any other country. I can't accept from a person with a low carbon emission per person, carbon footprint as we call it. I can't accept from that person who is struggling to feed the children to pay so much attention to environmental issues as I might do, because I'm richer and I have more time and more resources. But whatever it is, there are trade-offs which we have to keep in mind.
Professor, unfortunately, the time is limited. I know the students still curious. You still have lots of questions, right? So keep that curiosity high. You can discuss later with your lecturers in the class after this. But let's give Professor Peter Meyer the big applause again. And then keep in mind, Professor, there are also 9,500 students watching virtually. So hopefully today, we remember today, Professor, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, these students will be the future of Indonesia.
Future leaders, that is it.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Yeah. And then they will lead Indonesia. My future, Indonesian future, will lies in their hands. So I'm quite happy now that they are exposed to SDG goals. Yeah. So now you understand the concept and why we should initiate the social action related to SDGs, because at the end of this module they have to create social action project.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes, they have to create social action project as the final concluded assignment for this module. So hopefully, based on today's lecture, you can now discuss and create an impactful project. Yeah. Okay. So give now applause to you.
Yes. I was quite impressed about all these questions as well.
Yeah.
But as well your attention, not everyone, okay, but that was quite impressive. And thank you very much for this inputs in our discussion, and the media question I will take home. So very nice. So you are a very strong group. And like you said, this is our future, so we are happy. Okay, so thank you very much.
And now let's take pictures together, Professor. Professor, can you stand over here, and then students can stand with us? Okay. Ini bisa geser ke tengah, jadi tengahnya jangan kosong. Yes. Ya. Kita hitung bareng-bareng, udah ready yang di atas? Oke, let's count together.
Cukup nggak?
Oke. 1, 2, lagi, 1, 2. Okay. Thank you for attending this lecture. See you again in the next, maybe general lecture session. See you, bye.